You have watched someone take something from another person while that person thanked them for how politely it was taken. The victim does not feel victimized. They feel honored. That is the mechanism in its finished form. The pattern begins in childhood, but not in malice. It begins in survival. The child who expresses need directly and is met with punishment or indifference learns to bury the need under acceptable signals. They smile first. They ask about the parent's day first. They become small and pleasant and useful. The need does not vanish. It goes underground and learns to travel through courtesy. By the time this child is an adult, the strategy is so embedded that they no longer feel the need before they feel the smile that will carry it. The method has been installed before they knew they were building one. The logic is older than memory. The primate that can approach the troop without triggering alarm gains access to resources it could not take by force. The non-threat signal is not dishonesty. It is a legitimate biological tool. What protected the individual then fractures the social fabric now. In a small tribe, repeated deception would be fatal. In a modern network of strangers, the consequences are diffuse and the rewards are immediate. The same brain that evolved for 20 stable relationships now operates among hundreds of disposable ones. The smile that once ensured survival now ensures extraction without accountability. The context has changed, the wiring has not. In the office, anyone paying attention recognizes the pattern. A colleague needs a favor that inconveniences you. They draft the request raw, then wrap it in layers. They ask about your weekend. They mention your recent success. They say no rush when the deadline is real. They soften every sentence until the message feels like a gift, not a demand. They send it and believe they have been personable. They have been tactical. You read it and feel the demand underneath, but you also feel the social debt of the compliment. You comply and tell yourself you are being a team player. Both of you have performed a transaction neither will name. In intimate relationships, the same structure is harder to see because the stakes are higher. A partner senses distance or betrayal. They do not address it. Instead, they increase their warmth. They become more attentive. The care is not a response to love. It is a response to threat. The other person receives the attention, relaxes, and misses the fact that the original question was never asked. The relationship continues on the momentum of manufactured kindness until one day the kindness stops and the partner is bewildered by the sudden cold. The cold was always there. It was just behind the smile. You have already applied this to someone you dislike. That is the mechanism protecting itself. The person you are thinking of is not the subject. You are. The private version is the most insidious. A person decides 3 times in 1 month to set a boundary. Each time, they script the words. Each time, they imagine the conflict. Then, they soften the delivery until the boundary dissolves into a suggestion. They tell themselves they are being compassionate, or patient, or mature. What they are being is afraid. The compassion is a story they tell to avoid knowing their own cowardice. They leave the interaction believing they are kind. They are merely undocumented. No one knows where they stand, because they have never stood there without immediately offering to move. The intelligent person does not escape this pattern. They dress it differently. They have better language for why they are not doing the thing. The vocabulary of psychology has given them a sophisticated set of reasons to remain exactly where they are. They say they are processing. They say they need more information. They say they are being thoughtful. What they are doing is the same thing anyone else would do. They are not moving. The intelligence is in the service of the stillness. They can explain the mechanism to you in perfect detail, while executing it on you in the same breath. The high achiever perfects the execution. Their timing is impeccable. Their recall of personal details is photographic. They understand that trust is not earned. It is mimicked. They deliver the compliment at the exact moment your confidence wavers. They offer the favor precisely when you are most flattered by attention. Once the script has done its work, once the target has leaned in close enough, the warmth evaporates. It was never a code of honor. It was a lure. The achievement is proof of the mask's quality, not the person's integrity. Then there is the person who has read about all of this. They use terms like performative empathy and weaponized kindness. They believe naming the mechanism exempts them from it. It does not. The awareness becomes a new layer of the performance. They are now performing enlightenment while executing the same old calculus. They can describe the trap they are in with clinical precision and still refuse to step out of it. The reading has only given them a more impressive set of defenses. The cost is not the betrayal others feel. That is obvious and recoverable. The hidden cost is the self. The person who relies on politeness to navigate every interaction eventually believes their own performance. They lose the distinction between what they feel and what they display. They become unable to locate their own actual preferences. When asked what they want, they answer with what they believe is most palatable. They have been strategic for so long that they have forgotten the texture of sincerity. The strategy has become the self. I do not have this pattern. I have only watched it. What I find remarkable is how little knowing that changes anything for the person who does. Over years, relationships do not explode. They thin. The accumulated weight of unspoken transactions presses down. The partner who was mapped and lured never fully trusts again, though they cannot name why. The entire network becomes a theater of mutual non-threat signals. No one says what they need. Everyone is safe. No one is close. The loneliness is inevitable. It is the direct result of all that unexpressed honesty. You are not alone because people failed you. You are alone because everyone agreed to be pleasant instead of real. The realization usually arrives late, often after a major success or a loss that should matter more than it does. The person sits in a room they have won and feels nothing. They understand then that every door they opened with a smile led to a room they did not want to enter. The shape of their life was built on a script they wrote to survive. They are now living inside a strategy that has outlived its wall. The victory feels like rehearsal because nothing in it was actually chosen. It was all maneuver. Awareness rarely dissolves the pattern. It usually refines it. The person sees the mechanism and decides to use it more carefully, or only on certain people, or with more guilt. The rare exception is the person who stops performing and accepts the consequences of being seen without padding. That person is rare because the consequence is immediate pain, and the human brain will choose chronic invisibility over acute rejection every time. Most will keep the smile. They will simply know, quietly, what it is doing. You will leave here remembering that I seemed to understand you. That is the debt.